Thank you very much, Secretary General. Good morning, colleagues. I have the pleasure of chairing this meeting because of the absence of both the chair and the vice chair during the course of the next couple of days. So regrettably, I'm afraid you will have to put up with me. But I'm very pleased to see you all this morning. And our quorum having been settled, I'm pleased to open this special meeting of the Permanent Council, which has been convened to celebrate the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples and the 6th Inter-American Week for Indigenous Peoples. These two events are being observed under the theme Indigenous Youth as Agents for Change for Self-Determination in the Americas, Intergenerational Connections. Now, in accordance with Article 43 of the Rules of Procedure, I submit for your consideration the draft agenda set out in document CP/OD-2441/23. If there are no objections to this agenda, I will take it that this Council regards it as adopted. Adopted. Colleagues, we come now to the substance of our agenda. Indigenous peoples have been and continue to be victims of historical discrimination and exclusion, facing many challenges in the exercise of their human rights. Indigenous peoples in our hemisphere have faced ongoing discrimination and exclusion, their human rights challenged at every turn. The echoes of these challenges resonate with Indigenous youth, who, despite these hardships, have become vocal champions for their communities. Their voices amplify the wisdom of generations, bridging the past with the present and hopefully taking us into the future. As we mark the 6th Inter-American Week for Indigenous Peoples, we turn the spotlight on the rights and roles of Indigenous peoples, especially our youth, in forging a more inclusive society. Their role as agents of change is not merely a notion, it is a call to action. Our panelists today will provide insights into the current efforts to promote the social inclusion of Indigenous communities, focusing on the youth, our future leaders. The OAS stands firm in its commitment to Indigenous rights, as demonstrated by the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and its successive plans of action. Our objective is clear: full recognition, exercise, and enjoyment of Indigenous rights through strategic initiatives. This includes a strong focus on youth, intercultural education, health programs, and affirmative action policies. We urge all member states and the OAS General Secretariat to rally behind this cause, ensuring that these mandates are not mere words, but actions. Let us also acknowledge the first Inter-American meeting on Indigenous rights held this year in Guatemala, a milestone leading to the working group for the implementation of the American Declaration. With a focus on intergenerational representation, it emphasizes the importance of youth participation. Today's meeting, colleagues, is not just an opportunity for dialogue. We've had many such occasions for dialogue. It is a chance to fuel change, to forge a path towards a society where Indigenous peoples and youth are no longer marginalized but are embraced. I thank in advance our distinguished speakers, from whom we will hear this morning, and I want to thank them particularly for their dedication to Indigenous causes in the Americas. Their committed work is not just commendable, it is inspiring. Their work lights the way from a dark past to what could be a brighter future. If we all have the commitment and the will to act to correct the ancient wrongs and remedy present-day fears and neglect. Thank you, Assistant Secretary General Mendez and your team for leading and organizing this vital conversation today during the 6th Inter-American Week for Indigenous Peoples. I now offer the floor to the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Mr. Luis Almagro, as we take another step toward a future where Indigenous voices are not just heard, but heeded. Secretary General, you have the floor.